I'm sorry. I'm
So
getting
no,
wild
that's
with
a
this. I'm getting
perfect. No,
wild.
no, no, no. You're getting so direct this a little bit. So
Yeah.
what is your thoughts about how the society criminalizes the poor? I was going to go at the very end of this little. I'm just going to end snippet this little. In March, the Congress passed a law mandating that workers are able to draw 2 weeks of paid sick leave when they contract the coronavirus, or 2 weeks of paid leave to care for a quarantining relative, and up to 10 weeks of paid leave for family leave to care for a child whose school or daycare is closed for COVID related reasons. That was 10 weeks of paid family leave.
Mm.
Mitch McConnell shut that down. So that's an open warfare to the poor right there.
Yep.
It's not even just the poor; it's just the working
Middle
class,
class,
people
any
who have
working class. Yep.
middle
Yep. Yep.
class of any type. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, what are your thoughts on?
Well, one is counterproductive. You want to keep the economy going. You got to keep the people, in a situation where they can provide, right? Like if you spend the money on the food, the housing, getting to work, whatever it is, paying for daycare, all that other stuff, you need that money, right? But if somebody's sick and somebody throws like a wrench into your machine, you're screwed. Like anything, any minor thing that happens in this situation screws people over. If you don't have the money or the resources, if you're not well off, like rich or at least upper middle class, where you have some money coming in, like $60,000 a year plus, you know what I mean? In this environment, there could be huge, dramatic changes in your life. That can cripple you, make you homeless. God knows what. There's people starving. There's people on bread lines right now. And that's ridiculous for the richest country supposedly in the world. It shouldn't be that way. And for the fact that you're not willing to help these people find resources, like you have to give them something in order for them to find these resources, for them to keep transitioning and adapting to the situation. If you don't, it's like throwing a dog outside, right? It's like, well, I'm sorry, we have food in here that we could give you, but instead we're gonna throw you outside and let you figure it out. We're not gonna give you even a little bit to survive. So some people will adapt and they'll go out and they'll eat an animal or do whatever they got to do. And that's why I say crime happens and all that other stuff. I know these are kind of bad examples, but I think you kind of get the gist where I'm going with it. Is that if you put somebody in a desperate situation, they're going to do desperate things, right? Or they're going to die trying. You know what I mean? Because they have no other choice at the end of the day. If you give somebody something, they'll find ways of doing it. Maybe like the dog situation isn't a good example, but that's to me how I feel when I see it. It's like you're throwing your dog outside in the middle, like abandoning your dog in the street because you're tired of the dog or whatever. It's the same effect. You're putting them out there and hoping that somehow or another they find their way and all that. Pull your bootstraps up and do this, and you should have gotten a better education. I heard somebody say the other day, your job might be you might be fired from your job, or your job might not be there right now, but there's other jobs out there. Okay, so if you're making 30 40,000, not 30 40,000, but 30 to $40 an hour at your old job, now that job's not there, you're telling that same person with that certain lifestyle to adapt to a job that might be only paying $10 an hour. How the hell does that work? If you don't have the support for that, I'm not saying that you can't live off of $10 an hour, but you have family members and
You
other people you
can.
got to
No, you
provide. Or
can. You can.
yeah,
You can't live off $15
I'm
an
just
hour. You
saying.
can barely live off $15. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to talk about that we're going to skip over because we have no need to see Mitch McConnell again,
Yeah,
is that he was trying to make the narrative that the $2,000 checks are going to households that are at 75,000 or less. So basically they're trying to demonize people who earn $60,000 to $75,000, like that, just middle of the, and that's actually middle of the road in a lot of areas. New York and New Jersey, how much you're paying for your mortgage it's extreme in a lot of areas. I know my parents make more than that, and one of them just retired, so
hmm
they will not be making more than that. In like when that tax return comes out next year, it's not going to be preferential for my family. Um,
yep,
I
yep,
feel very lucky that like they have been able to stay in the same job for 30 to 40 years, 35 years. So they are just lucky in a way. They've worked hard, they've done everything they've done, but they've never had something come up and just pop them out of their job. And they're lucky enough to have that not be their reality. So you have to have a system where if that happens to you, you can get on your feet again. That's what I believe. That's what that's the socialist in me, is that I believe that we should have a system that fundamentally allows everybody to have at least a standard of living.
Hmm.
So even to throw up, this person was a Yang supporter. I'm not even a huge Yang supporter, but I will give him that he wanted to have a honest discussion about the UBI, like, and that's a real discussion that we need to have one day probably. Their automation and other things that we've talked about on the show already will contribute to probably less jobs at some point. Um, I think that every person still deserves a standard of living. That's how that's I believe that the fundamentals that I was raised around. I know that it was very much the church. Um, People should be taken care of. I don't think that they should not put in their weight if they can, but if you can't, you can't. Um, that's how my life has presented itself.
Yep. Yep. It's rough, man. It's rough, man. I'm seeing a lot of people suffering. I'm seeing a lot of people losing resources that they used to have. I'm seeing a lot of people getting sick. I'm seeing a lot of things going on that are totally like left field from what they were doing the day or weeks or months before that. That they're like, what the hell do I do? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, like if and this is nobody's fault. It's no, I didn't ask for this. I didn't walk into a situation where I wanted to get a virus or for this virus to take over the city and shut everything down or make it harder for me to feed my child or anything or work or anything else. But yet we pay taxes, and then in the end of the day, they're what is it? I want to say harboring. What's the word? Hoarding our monies. That's what I was looking for. The other H word.
Mm-hmm.
They're hoarding our monies that we gave them for them to take care of and govern over. Not help us with whatever situations that we need. That I don't understand why we don't even vote what the money's used for. Why is it they get to vote for our money? You know what I mean? The money that kills me at the end of the day. Like oh, we need this for the thing. I don't want a nuclear bomb to pay for a nuclear bomb. I want somebody to get health care. I want to get schools fixed. I want roads fixed.
You should you should watch City So Real if you haven't had the chance. It's about Chicago. So one of the candidates actually brought up they made a form, a tax form basically, that had
Mhm.
all of the taxes for Chicago that you paid
Mhm.
specifically.
Yeah.
So that's like that's a kind of an innovative idea, at least, that like maybe, I don't know, we have to find a consistent group of people who are willing to do this to find out what the exact tax amounts from people are. I mean, you have to average it out probably per area because you probably can't get that exact data from the IRS. But wouldn't it be great if we had a really informative tax law where you know everything percentage wise that your taxes are used for? If it's
Yeah.
just a percentage, it's just a percentage. You
Yeah.
know, if we can't get to as deep as the exact monetary amount, just tell me how much of the percent of my payment went to defense budget.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, you can make these large groups if you have to, but it's just we have to start thinking out of the box. So, I mean, I would love an organization to do this. I know that they need IRS information, and that's kind of
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah.
But that'd be a great law to put in action, right? I don't know if that'll ever pass because it'll look like people will say you're going into their bank accounts.
Yeah.
That'll be the next conspiracy theory.
I
They're
just I
going into
just
your bank
I
accounts.
just want I just don't like my mother's friend. Like I'm not gonna name names or whatever. When the Haitian earthquakes happened, I don't know if I told you this story. She gave money, wanted to give money to the people, so for to help with the causes there. And she said she wanted it specifically for certain things, and they denied her that. That's what it feels like to me when it comes to taxes. It's like when you give your taxes up, you want it to be for like the roads, you want it for the education, you want it for the things that are gonna make your livelihood better, right? But then you're dumping bombs. Like how many billions of dollars or trillions or whatever it is that we've spent dumping bombs and killing people and hurting others and crippling economies and doing whatever for the the very few people that actually are You know what I mean? Like that's not where I want my money going. You know, or anybody that I think is a normal person wants their money going. But like, why are
Well,
roads got
that's why I
potholes?
reminded you it's a defense bill. No, that's why I
Yeah,
reminded you it's a defense bill. Not
yeah,
just
yeah.
you, but like in
No, but I
general,
mean,
like
in
the
general,
idea.
with all the stuff, all the pork that they have in these bills that they create, I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? You know, I understand that, like for some people, I don't mind the marijuana thing because I want everybody to relax a little more. But you know what I mean? All the other bills that are out there, you know, maybe that's just like me being more relaxed or whatever, not like that. But in regards to the other bills, where it's like it seems to be hurting people, like I said, defense or what other bills can I think of like that have absolutely not just tax breaks to what is it, the fossil industry, the fossil fuel industry, all this stuff. I'm like, why
Yeah.
are we giving them? How's that helping us? That's messing up our environment more. You know, I see these ads for Exxon. Let me keep this short because I know we're going off topic. But I see ads for like Exxon up there, and I'm like, I heard like not too long ago that Exxon spill in the Gulf or whatever it was still isn't fully closed. You know what I mean?
No, it hasn't
You
been
know,
fully cleaned up. But that
yeah.
was gonna
So
take. It's gonna take 20 years. It
yeah,
literally said they said it was gonna take
I
20
heard
years.
I heard it was still open though. I mean, maybe it's not leaking as bad as it was, but I mean, like nobody's talking about it. It's not important anymore. Why? Because they feel like it's not affecting anybody. But I'm sure a lot of people are getting cancer from the fish that are swimming through it. I don't know, man. Just the priorities are screwed up. We need to get like the other person said on Twitch. We need to have term limits. I think that's what they were talking about, right? Like certain age
You're talking
restrictions
about
and
age term limits
yeah, yeah,
specifically.
yeah. There's got to be something because some of this nonsense is, you know. Plus, it's like people become more and more loyal to their donors the longer they're in there. You know what I mean? And they find loopholes that they can, you know, screw us over and benefit their donors more. And I'm not cool with that. I think people need to have certain term limits that don't allow people to get too comfortable. You know, unless they're doing a good job and whatever, and they're getting reelected for doing a good job, great. But you know, it has to be to a certain extent. Anyway, go back to whatever. I'm blabbing.
No, we're good.
I'm getting amped,
That's pretty
man.
much it. I have no reason to go. I have no reason to go back to Mitch McConnell. That's all I gotta
Yeah,
say. I have no reason.
yeah.
Like, I
Teenage Mutant
we
Ninja
know that he.
Turtle, middle-aged
Yeah,
Mutant Ninja Turtle.
everybody just knows he's the worst. I mean,
Sorry.
it's so ridiculous how long he's been there as well. Him and
Yeah.
Lindsey Graham. So
He's getting voted
let's move
back
on.
in. That kills me.
Yeah,
That people
he
actually
got voted
bring
back
him
in.
back.
But
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
he had a weak candidate against him. He had a very like center line Democrat against him, and they thought that that would work. It's just not going to work. You have to get somebody fiery, somebody who takes the base of Kentucky, which is possible. They're one of the few states that have had kind of a progress with Medicare and basically extending the ACA. That's it. You know, like they actually kind of could be purple if there was compassionate and real people for office right now, and there's nobody in Kentucky that's really running.
Yeah.
So that's how it is right now.
Yeah.
Let's move to Brexit because we don't need to get stuck on Mitch McConnell. Let's not get stuck on McConnell.